Welcome to Lakes Community High School and our Veterans Day Assembly. We are gathered together today to honor our veterans, remind all of us of their sacrifices, and how we can learn from them and practice our civic responsibilities.
We will start our Veterans Day 2021 observance with the introductions of our veteran guests by LCHS science teacher, Mr. Jeff Newton.
Thank you and good morning. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to do this. First up, we have Sergeant Larry Burke from the Air Force. Tech Sergeant Tobias Gruchot from the Air Force. Staff Sergeant Ed Johnson, joined by his wife Judy from the Air Force. Mr. Jesse Hall from the Air Force is not in attendance today. Please keep him in your thoughts. Captain Jim Anderson from the Army. Sergeant Danny Barrett, Army. Sergeant Paul Balmonk, Army. Lieutenant Colonel Blaine Bowers, joined by his wife Barbara and son Bryce from the Army. Specialist Ron Gillespie from the Army. Sergeant Terry Harrison, Army. Specialist Tom Eigelhart, Army. Specialist Bud Lord, Army. Specialist John Mann, Army. Joined by daughter Mrs. Ecker. Mr. Thomas Mouse, Lieutenant Colonel in the Army. He is joined by his wife, Mary. Captain George Sakis, Army. Specialist Joe Schorler, Army. Joined by his wife, Judy. Specialist Patrick Shanahan, Army, joined by his daughter, Maddie. Corporal Chester Migalski, Army. Chester will be celebrating his 90th birthday tomorrow. Captain James Anderson, Army. Staff Sergeant Paulo Albavera, Marines, joined by his wife Tiffany. Sergeant Stephen Guther, joined by his daughter, Mrs. Guther, or wife, Mrs. Guther, and their daughters, Edie and Rosie. Sergeant Ken Malenchik from the Marines. Sergeant Kurt Onstead, Marines. Sergeant Dave Worsler, Marines, joined by his wife Barb. Chief Petty Officer Pasquale De Agostino, Navy. Mr. Alan Laxon, Navy. Data Systems Tech, First Class, James Mitchell, Navy. Petty Officer Edward Rosquist, Navy. Technician First Class Lonnie Sutton, joined by his wife Karen. All right, let's give a round of applause for all of our assembled veterans. Next, we will be introducing our dignitaries. First up is Mr. Norm Johnson, Antioch Police Commander. Mr. Chuck Smith, Antioch Police Department. Mayor of Lindenhurst, Mr. Dominic Martirano. Mayor of Lake Villa, Mr. James McDonald. Lake Villa Police Chief Rochelle Tishnai. Veterans Assistant Commissioner Mr. John Murray. And the Superintendent of the Veterans Assistance Commission, Mr. Andrew Tangen.
Students, staff, guests, and veterans, please rise as our nation's colors are presented by Boy Scout Troop 1987, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance presented by Lake Steen of Students and Marine Corps veteran, Mr. Kurt Onstead.
Please remove any hats that are not part of a military or scout uniform and rise for the presentation of the colors. Audience, attention. Color guard, attention. Color guard, forward march. Color guard, halt. Please post the colors. Please face the American flag. Hand salute or place your hand over your heart.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. Color guard reform. Color guard about face. Color guard forward march. Color guard halt. Color guard dismissed. Audience at ease. You may be seated.
Thank you, Mr. Onstead. At this time, we ask you to join us in the singing of the national anthem, which will be performed by our Lakes Choir under the direction of Mr. Dan Ermel. Please stand.
Thank you to the Lakes Choir. Please welcome LCHS Principal, Mr. David Newberry.
Good morning, veterans. Good morning, students. This solemn occasion of Veterans Day has its origins in the end of World War I. In 1918, at the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month, the guns fell silent on the muddy battlefields of Europe. President Woodrow Wilson called it the war to end all wars and ordered that the armistice be commemorated in succeeding years. After the Korean War, President Dwight D. Eisenhower renamed the holiday Veterans Day to salute all veterans, no matter when or where they served. While the name has changed, its purpose remains unchanged, to remember the sacrifices of those who have fought to protect the freedoms provided to us. Our nation owes a great debt to its veterans, whose service spans every decade and continues every day of our country's existence. Through untold courage and sacrifice, American veterans have secured the liberties which the Founding Fathers sought to establish here in this United States of America. Whenever, wherever, the nation has called, in times of darkness and in danger, as well in times of peace and prosperity, American servicemen and women have been there. Veterans have proudly carried the torch of liberty for all of us. Veteran stories are the stories of our history because America rose to greatness on their shoulders. We owe them our very way of life, our freedoms to live, work, and raise our families as we please. The very least we can do is to honor their sacrifice and thank them for all they have done for this great country. Staff and students, please stand and give applause to our guests and veterans here today.
Lakes Community High School has many connections to the armed forces. As we honor the veterans in attendance, we also honor veterans not in attendance today. We will now have a special multimedia presentation with pictures of our veterans that was put together by Lake Social Studies teachers, Mr. Matt Reif and Mr. Lorenzo Gomez.
If there's one thing I know, it's this. You take the best that God's given you, and you make the most of it. Take the dirt and put your plow in it, and it'll give you something back. Hit the sky with enough know-how, and you can call the heavens your own. You take nothing for granted, and leave nothing on the table, and there's nothing you can't do. But you probably already know that, because you're here. You know it's about brotherhood, sisterhood, neighborhood, and doing good. Because the richest people I know trade in a currency called pride. They pour it into everything they do. They pour it into barrels of Kentucky oak. They pour it into Pennsylvania ore and make Milwaukee steel. They pour it into a 10-hour day and then pour it into a tank and a weekend. Because the only party that really matters is the one you're having tonight. This is a party born in the back of American freedom, united with the understanding that there's no better place to raise a flag, raise a son or daughter, or expectations. Because that's what you can do when you call the greatest country on earth home. Here's a toast to America, to being born free. We don't just raise a cup, a glass, or a bottle. No, we raise the whole arm.
Further At Long John Silver's, our legendary lobster bites are back with the
Thank you, Mr. Reif and Mr. Gomez. Our band, under the direction of Mr. Matt Castor, will now play the Armed Forces Salute. Veterans, please stand when your branch of the service medley is played.
you, Mr. Castor and the band. Our keynote speaker today served in the U.S. Navy on active duty, deploying 8 times during his career. He has deployed in support of counterterrorism and counterintelligence operations in Afghanistan, conducted counter-piracy, counterterrorism, and anti-terrorism operations in Africa and the Middle East, counter-narcotic operations in South and Central America, humanitarian and counterintelligence operations in Haiti, and anti-terrorism operations in Europe.
He is a graduate of the Citadel with a bachelor's degree in international relations and military affairs, Henley Putnam University with a master's of science degree in national security studies, specializing in terrorism and counterterrorism with summa cum laude. And the John Marshall Law School, he is a licensed attorney in the state of Illinois. He has brought great leadership to the Veterans Assistance of Illinois Commission. Please join me in welcoming the Superintendent of Veterans Assistance of Lake County, Lieutenant Commander Andrew Tangen.
Good morning, and thank you to the staff of Lakes High School for asking me to come and speak to the students today on Veterans Day. When I was initially asked to come and speak, I had to take a moment to ponder where I have been and where I have come in my life. Long ago, or at least long ago to me, I sat in an assembly not dissimilar to this one. Well, a Vietnam veteran who back then was about my age spoke to my high school about Veterans Day. Over 20 years later, I, as a representative for all veterans in Lake County, but specifically for those Iraq, Afghan, and global war on terrorism veterans, am speaking to you. Time is a funny thing. It is a uniquely human concept that we use to identify important markers of the past. History is ultimately the study of time and what happened in time. None of the students here today were born when 9/11 happened. Much like in my youth, I was not born when Pearl Harbor or even the events of Vietnam transpired, but I nonetheless learned from men and women who fought during those times. Similarly, you have had to learn the fundamental changes our country has experienced since 9/11. As has been previously stated by your principal, today is a day that was initially set aside to remember the armistice from World War I, a war to end all wars. As you have learned throughout your life and your study here in high school, the end of wars did not happen, and over 100 years of conflict has continued, and we have engaged enemy forces throughout the world. Today not only marks the end of World War I, but it is also the 100th anniversary of the dedication of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. That tomb holds the remains of men from World War I, World War II, and Korea, known only to God. Each was chosen by individuals who served in those conflicts with distinction and honor. And this day is a day in which we pay tribute to those in the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and all veterans, specifically all veterans, living and dead, but especially giving thanks to the living veterans who served their country honorably during war or peacetime, and remember their achievements, their courage, and their dedication, and say thank you for their sacrifices. Thinking of the heroes who join us in this group today, and those who are here only in spirit, a person cannot help but feel awed by the enormity of our duty. For we stand amid patriots and the family and friends of those who have nobly served. What exactly do we celebrate on Veterans Day? To be sure, we mean to honor brave men and women, living and dead, who have fought America's battles past and present. But how do we honor them, and what do we honor them for? The Greek philosopher Thucydides once said, "The bravest are surely those who have the clearest vision of what is before them, glory and danger alike, and yet, notwithstanding, go out to meet it." We honor those men and women and all veterans today in thanking them for their service and welcoming them home. But how can we honor men and women who have stood in the breach for us, who have dedicated their lives to preserving America, who are the best of us and represent America as it should? These questions are something that every American should contemplate daily. For those seniors in attendance, shortly you will leave here and travel the world. You will learn, grow, start families, and bring new and innovative ways of doing things. Some of you may very well enter uniformed service or serve your community and country in other roles. You will meet people from all walks of life and learn how to work together for a common goal. For those of you unsure of what to do on graduation, I urge you to at least consider service in uniform. It provided me with opportunities that I would not have had I not joined the military. Veterans Day gives us the opportunity to honor those who have made decisions to stand in the breach for us. Many are aware of the end of America's longest war in Afghanistan this past August. Many may not be aware that this is the first Veterans Day in 20 years that America has not been engaged in active conflict. And I can tell you that this Veterans Day is especially difficult for those global war on terror and Afghan veterans. Afghanistan is known as the graveyard of empires. It has seen empires throughout history travel through it and leave ultimately unsuccessful. Historians far from now will look to America's time there and analyze these past 20 years. However, for us who served there, worked with the Afghan people, learned their culture, saw friends lost and injured, we are left with memories of a country with so much potential, now stalled. But much more worrisome and much more damaging of this or any future Veterans Day is the division that exists in this country between the less than 1% that does the fighting and the remainder that enjoy the benefits of peace and prosperity, safeguarded by those who protect and serve. Our attitude towards service members has not always remained stable. Despite the near constant engagements of the U.S. military overseas over the last 20 years, everyday welfare and lives of most Americans has been unaffected. There are no rations, no war bonds, and no protests over the lives lost and the treasures expended. America's military engagement is entirely removed from the average citizen. And the isolation of military service is relatively few Americans not only affects the makeup of the military, but how it intersects with society. As we can see from the presentation we just saw, about 61% of Americans have a familial connection to the military service, but only 33% to those under the age of 30 share that connection. In a government self-described as by the people, for the people, fewer people than ever are interacting with those in uniform, and very few are choosing to serve. General John Kelly, who lost his son in Iraq, remarked once, "Those with less of a sense of service to nation never understand it when men and women of character step forward to look danger and adversity straight in the eye, refusing to blink or giving ground, even to their own deaths. The protected cannot begin to understand the price paid so that they and their families can sleep safe and free at night. No, they are not victims, but are warriors. They are your warriors, and warriors are never victims, regardless of how and where they fall. Death or fear of death has no power over them. Their paths are paved by sacrifice, sacrifices gladly made for you. Those who wear these uniforms understand implicitly the special nature of the harms and the unique service to the nation that voluntarily and knowingly faces death in battle, and accepts not only the risk to life and limb, but also the soul-transforming burden of taking up arms and killing other human beings. It is why we have sent them to fight on our behalf. So the least we can do is try and honor their service as they see their appointed service. They are standing guard and pursuing our enemies and braving danger to fulfill their sworn duty to protect us and our American way of life. From the soldiers who shivered and starved through the winter at Valley Forge to the doughboys crouched in the muddy trenches of France, to the platoon who patrolled the hazy jungles of Vietnam and the young men and women patrolling the mountains of Afghanistan, we remember and honor them all today. The service members we honor today come from all walks of life, but they share several fundamental qualities. They possess courage, pride, determination, selflessness, dedication to duty and integrity, all the qualities needed to serve a cause larger than oneself. All who have served in the military, especially those who served in wartime, have comrades and friends who did not return home that we think of every day. We must never forget the self-sacrifice that a select group of Americans made from the founding of our country through the global war on terrorism. Nothing is more painful than the loss of a friend, comrade, father, mother, sister, son, or daughter. For those of you who have family members in uniform, who served in uniform, talk to them about their service. Tell them that you are proud of them. For those of you who do not, look for veterans. Find ways to serve them and honor them. Go to your local VFW post. Go to your American Legion. Hear their stories. Search out volunteer opportunities in your country to help our veterans. I thank you for the opportunity to come and speak today. The last few years have seen immense pressure on the ideas of America. And America is far from perfect. But the ideas and the ideals of America has so much potential, and those who served in uniform and signed up to give their last full measure have witnessed it and know what it is. Thank you.
Please stand as we now have a playing of taps by Lake students Gavin Murray and Jenna Mack.
Remain standing as we observe a moment of silence for our veterans who are here for us today and who gave the ultimate sacrifice while in service.
Please Please remain standing for the retiring of our nation's colors by the Troop 1987.
Audience, please rise and remove any hats. Audience attention, color guard attention, color guard forward march. Color guard halt. Color guard, please retrieve the colors. Please face the American flag. Hand salute or place your hand on your heart. 2. Color guard reform. Color guard about face. Color guard forward march. Color guard halt. Color guard dismissed. Audience at ease.
Veterans and students, thank you for being here today. Students, we hope that this assembly has provided you the opportunity to think about our veterans and the sacrifices they have made for our sake. Please think of the words and meanings of the presentations and speeches here today as you navigate your high school years. Thank you again, veterans. We thank you for your sacrifice. Students, if you could remain seated as the veterans move to the small gym, teachers and students will be dismissed by section after the veterans have left the gym. Mr. Anderson, can you escort the veterans out? Thank you. Let's get a round of applause for our veterans.